Namaste, mi familia. I want to start this conversation talking about no topic less than enlightenment. I'm talking full enlightenment for you as an individual. Now, I know that seems like an esoteric topic. It's something that might just be reserved for like some guru that's much more advanced than you are, that's been pining his entire life, dedicating himself to the scripture and working on his practice. But in reality, enlightenment is something that is available to each and every one of us. Now, why is that? You really have to question this concept of enlightenment of like, A, what is it? And B is, why would it be available to me? Right? I haven't spent my life dedicated to developing my spiritual practice. So why would the insights of the divine be revealed to me? Why would the secrets of the universe manifest themselves to little old me? And the answer to that question is because that's what God wants. God wants you to achieve your divinely inspired purpose because it's divinely inspired. It's God's intent for you to actively pursue your divinely inspired purpose and to achieve it, right? Why would God create the universe? Why would God create mankind, life? What would be the purpose of this? Other than for a reason that we're here to do something that's important, not just to exist, to live our lives and to make iPhones and sell products and go to work and retire someday and create children and have them do the whole thing over and over again. Like, really, is that why we're here? I don't think so. We're here for a reason. And to neglect that is to actually, my goodness, to just not really realize our full potential. And I think that's the cornerstone of what the offer is for all of us, is that we are capable of so much more than we are today. And that more complete, full version of ourselves is capable of accomplishing so much more than we have done thus far in life. And so let's take a step back. Let's look at this concept of enlightenment. Let's break it down for ourselves on very practical levels, like levels that you can apply in your life today so that you could actually grow and become that full version of yourself, right? Okay, so let's break it down. So first of all, what are you? Who are you? What are you? What are you made of? How do we answer that question about what is my purpose? Well, we start by asking, who are we, right? What are we, right? Okay, so number one, you've probably heard a lot of people talk about you're not that voice in your head. That constant talk track that we have, that internal dialogue that is often judgmental, but it's continually talking in our head and reflecting our thoughts and helping us work through problems. And I have to say, it's a little disconcerting when people say, you're not that voice in your head. Because if I'm not that voice in my head, well then who is that? Like, what is that? And I think the answer is, we're actually more than that. You're not only that voice in your head, you're much, much more than that. And what are you? So let's break that down. Okay, so you are a combination of a physical body, a spirit, and a mind. And that voice in your head is associated with that mind, right? And I think there's a tendency for us to judge the mind and tell it to be quiet and see it as negative and something that needs to be battled and combated. In reality, the mind is a part of this divine being that we are. And so it's not that we're not that voice in your head. It's just that that's just but one voice in the conversation. We also have intelligence in our body. Believe it or not, our body has intelligence to it. You know, you often experience that through nuance. You get this weird feeling of like, hey, something's not right, or I think I need to like avoid that dark alley. Something's not right there. Well, these are intelligent components of our body that are actually picking up through our sensations, like our eyes and our audio, our hearing, our speech. Said that twice. Our touch sensation. All of these are the language of the body that has an intelligence to it. that is equal to the mind, right? And then there's a spirit in the middle, right? The body, spirit, and mind that represents our potential as something beyond this life, beyond the physical body, beyond the judgmental, negative, past-oriented focus of the mind. The spirit is something that is limitless, and it's also beyond this lifetime, right? So, what are we? Well, we are the collective consciousness of our body, our spirit, and our mind, right? The mind should not be the dictator. The mind should not be solely in charge of who we are and guide everything that we do. It should be a collective experience with the body, spirit, and mind working together as a team. Now, that sounds good, right? I mean, it sounds like what we've heard for years, mind, body, spirit, and that is the essence of yoga, is bringing those three into harmony. And what we need to take from this is that there are actually three distinct parts of us that have the ability to be more than they are today, right? So let's dig into that a little deeper. So we'll start with the easiest, which is the body, right? So think about your body in terms of its completeness. And what I mean by complete is that you could be healthier, or you could be better, right? You could eat better, you could exercise more, you could pay more attention to the health of your body. You could spend more time a day exercising. We all know this, and yet we don't do that, right? But that's okay. What we're doing is we're taking stock of who we are in terms of where we are right now, in terms of that completeness, but also realizing that there's actually something more that we could be, that full version of our body, the healthiest we could ever possibly be, right? So think about that. Think about just you. Like, I'm not talking about comparing yourself to an Olympic athlete. No, I'm talking about you. And what is the complete version of your body of what it could be, the healthiest you could possibly be? If you did spend more time exercising, you did eat right, and you did all these things that you know you needed to do, and you spent the time to actually invest in your body. By the way, I'm not suggesting that you completely dedicate yourself to doing that. I just want you to visualize what that version of you could be, because that is the potential 100% healthiest version that you could be. And then you are somewhere less than that, right? You're not at zero. Zero would be death, and you couldn't be watching this video if you were dead. So you're alive, so you must be something greater than zero. And so somewhere between zero, or let's say 0.01, and 100 is where you are today in terms of the completeness of that body aspect of you. Okay, so pretty easy to do. I myself could probably lose a few pounds, and I could exercise more, and I could eat better, of course. And so I might peg myself at 60% of what that 100% potential could be. And I know I can improve that, but I know that I'm not 40, 30%. I'm not sickly, right? You may be somewhere else on this spectrum, and it doesn't really matter. This is not about judging ourselves. This is about taking stock of where we are. Okay, so let's move on to the next phase, and that is spirit. And that's difficult, right? It's hard enough to define what our spirit is, let alone define how complete we are, right? And so let's, instead of trying to jump into where we are right now, let's think about where we could be in the most highest potential we could be. So whatever your spiritual practice is, whether it's prayer or meditation or yoga or Tai Chi or walking in nature, it really doesn't matter how you connect to your spirit. It's that you understand that there is that connection to spirit, and that potential of spirit has potential to be more than you are today. You could actually meditate more, or you could actually spend more time doing these activities such as yoga or Tai Chi or whatever it is, like spend more time in nature. It isn't important about what those activities are right now. What we're really trying to get to is that try to understand that super version of ourself has a completely evolved spirit. And we are, just like our body is somewhere along the spectrum, we're somewhere in that line from 0 to 100. That completely enlightened being at 100%, and the completely ignorant version of ourselves that is disconnected from society and humanity and doesn't care about anybody would be zero, and you're not there, and maybe you're not here either, but you're somewhere in the middle of that. So right now, just pick a number. Just pick a number of where you think you are in that spectrum from 0 to 100 in terms of what your complete version of your spirit could be. And if it's hard to figure out what that number is, like, look back in your life and think about where you were during your teens or maybe your 20s or wherever you are. Think about 10 years ago of, are you more spiritually connected than you were during that time? And that kind of help you gauge that kind of progress from 0 to 100 of where you might be. Okay, the last one is fairly easy. It's mind. And so we can think about, all right, imagine when you were a baby, you didn't know anything. Like, you were a sponge. You born into the world, you didn't know anything. You learned from the initial first breath of what this world is all about, and progressed to go to school and learn from others, and maybe you went to university, maybe you didn't. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you know more than you were when you were first born. You have progressed along that spectrum from 0 to 100, and you are somewhere along that progression. Many of us find that early in life we're really learning a lot, and then life gets in the way, and we kind of slow down, and that kind of plateaus out. And you can think, that 100% version of myself, yeah, it's definitely more out there, right? There's room to grow. I could spend more time learning. I could not only just learning the stuff that I already enjoy learning, but I could introduce myself to new things that are outside of my spectrum of what I even understand today. I could learn things that are completely new and open up those channels in my brain to learn more. Imagine that complete scholarly version of yourself, the most learned you could possibly ever be, the brilliant version of you. Where are you at relative to that version of you? You're not the baby that knew nothing, and you're maybe not that 100% version, but just like our body and spirit is moving along this progression to completeness, where are you at in that regards to? Okay, so now we have our body, our spirit, and our mind, and we realize that we're not at 100% and we're not at 0, and we're somewhere in the middle in that progression from 0 to 100. Some of us are growing fast and some of us are growing slow, and we're taking stock of where we are, okay? Again, remember, this is not about judgment. This is not about judging yourself. This is about seeing where you are relative to your potential. Now, think about your life, your career, your relationships, your financial situation, your community, your family, all these parts that are important parts of our life, and imagine that complete version of ourselves at 100% body, 100% spirit, 100% mind, right? Imagine that person operating in your life right now. Would that person be more successful? Would they make more loving choices? Would they have better relationships with their loved ones? Would they have better relationships at work? And at work, would they be more effective? Would you want to work for that person, or would you think that that person is someone that is more successful in their career than you are? Could that person take on greater challenges and actually accomplish them and blow everything away and be more? I think for all of us, the answer is yes. It's not that I need to reinvent myself to be somebody I'm not today. I don't need to judge myself that I am not good enough. What I need to do is to say, that person's pretty awesome, and that person could accomplish anything. And so, what enlightenment is using this divine inspiration of our purpose of why we're here in order to progress to being that full and complete version of ourself. Now, I refer to that as our complete and true self, right? That is the true version of you. This version of you are today. It's a version of you, but it's not the true you. The true you is that complete, ubiquitous person. That is the true you. And so, if you think about God's relationship with you and how God's energy flows to those that are accomplishing their divinely inspired purpose. And it isn't really a stretch of the too far to think that God's energy would flow more to those that are pursuing and accomplishing their divinely inspired purpose as opposed to those that aren't. I don't think God's energy flows to people that are doing horrible things in the world. It doesn't mean they don't get what they want, but it does mean that God's energy flows through us, especially and more magnificently when we are pursuing and accomplishing our divinely inspired purpose. Now, don't worry right now that you may not know what that purpose is. We're going to get to that in subsequent episodes. By the way, I'm not going to tell you what your purpose is, but I will guide you through the process of discovering your purpose. But imagine that God's energy is flowing into the universe, and it is being dynamically diverted to those that are accomplishing their divinely inspired purpose. And that energy is healing. It is invigorating. It is driving more opportunity. It is like a magnet of bringing people to you, because this is that energy that is flowing through you, and it can actually propel you forward to accomplish these great things that you're capable of doing, or just maybe improving those relationships with your family, your community. This is not about accomplishing great feats. No, that may be fine for some people, and maybe you are that person that needs to go accomplish greatness, but it's about making small choices. See, if you think about what God is, God in his essence is love, right? Every religion talks about God as love, and love is big enough for God. Believe me, we'll touch on this topic, but love is only fully embodied when it is shared with another. And so this is how we make these decisions in our daily life, and this is where this gets very practical. This is where we make decisions in the present moment that actually propel us from where we are today. Remember, our body, spirit, and mind are at some state of completeness, and what progresses them to grow and nurture to be more. It's through two things. Number one, daily investments in our body, spirit, and mind, continually on that path of growth. Imagine that you had seen this video 10 years ago, and I apologize for not publishing it 10 years ago. It's taken me a while to put this all together, and I have no excuse. But imagine you had watched this video 10 years ago, and for the last 10 years, you had made investments in your body, spirit, and mind on a daily basis. And that progression would definitely have you much further ahead than you are today. You would be much more than you are today. You'd be closer to that 100% version of you. You would. And now think about where you are today. And so making that investment, starting today, by the way, starting today to make those investments in our body, spirit, and mind to progress us forward is what moves us closer to the true self, right? And so the way we do that, it's actually very simple. Aspire to become better than you are today by nurturing your body, spirit, and mind. And the easiest way to do that is at the end of your day, before you retire for the evening, ask yourself these three questions. Number one, what have I done today to nurture my body? Number two, what have I done to nurture my spirit? And of course, number three, what have I done today to nurture my mind? Most days you're not going to say nothing to all three of those questions, but in one of those three is probably going to come up with not enough. I could do more, right? Or nothing. Haven't done anything for my spirit today. This tells you what you need to do with the remaining time in the day before you go to sleep for the evening. Take some time to go for a walk for your body. Drop down into meditation for 10 minutes for your spirit. Go out and learn something new for your mind. Watch something new on YouTube that this is new, you've never seen this before, so check the box for developing your mind today. But learn something new, broaden your horizons, invest in your mind, and that way no day will ever go to a close where you haven't nurtured your body, spirit, and mind, right? Number two, remember there was one and there was two? Okay, well now we're getting to number two is make the more loving choice. This is the very simplest way that we can navigate through this world to pursue our divinely inspired purposes. always making the more loving choice. Now, I know that sounds simple. I mean, the logical, judgmental mind will tell you right now that it's too simple. There's no way enlightenment could be accomplished by just simply choosing love. But imagine if every single choice that you made in your life, you made the more loving choice. Think about your regrets in life, the times that you've made mistakes, and think if you could have the presence of mind back then to say, what is the more loving choice that I should make in this situation? And if you had made that choice, how different your life would be now on. Now, these are not always just big life moment choices. These are sometimes as simple as you're walking down the street, there's somebody else coming the other way, and you have a choice. You could say hello, or you could stick your head down and not say anything. I ask you, which is the more loving choice? The more loving choice is not always easy, but the point is that you have a choice. And when you choose love in these moments, you choose God. And that is what is important to put us on the path towards enlightenment. Constant nurturing of our body, spirit, and mind, so we can become the complete and most full potential of ourselves, so we can accomplish our divinely inspired purpose, we are guided to doing that by making the more loving choice in every moment. By the way, the more loving choice right now would be to click like and subscribe to this video so that you can come back tomorrow and you can watch the next installment. I'm somewhat joking, but you see my point, is that by making the more loving choice, you actually put yourself on the path to enlightenment. And that's what we're going to keep pursuing here together. Daily episodes for you to learn more about how to unlock your own potential, to put yourself on the path to your own enlightenment. I'm Darby, and we'll talk soon.